I want to thank you all for joining us today, because as the 4th of July gets closer, we want to get the message out about how many risks there are to our community based on fire. And we know the 4th of July is such a great time to celebrate. People get together with family and friends from all over, attend parades, participate in fireworks. Now, for the first time ever, we not only have fireworks all over the community, but also in the east side of San Jose, and Milpitas, Gilroy, Morgan Hill, and many, many others. And the Santa Clara County Fire website is going to have all of that. So please go to the website to be able to observe fireworks so that you're not doing them yourselves. This is really about having a safe holiday, a celebratory holiday, but doing it in the safest way we can. I want to remind everybody that every year somebody ends up here that shouldn't be, and we're at Valley Medical Center, and they're here because of an accident, because of something that was unplanned. And so we want to talk about that really to reinforce how important it is that we're careful in our community. So with that, I want to introduce Dr. Sheckter, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the Valley Medical Center's burn unit and what he sees here in our community.
All right. Thank you, Supervisor. So hi, I'm Cliff Sheckter. I'm the Medical Director of the Regional Burn Center here at Santa Clara Valley Medical Center. We want everyone to have a safe 4th of July holiday. If you do get burned, we're more than happy to treat you here. We are the only combined burn trauma center for the entire San Francisco Bay Area. We're verified by the American Burn Association to treat pediatric and adult injuries, along with traumas by the American College of Surgeons. In terms of illegal fireworks, these are mortars, small pieces of dynamite. These can and will blow off your fingers and your hands. We see these every year. Unfortunately, these types of injuries are not repairable in most circumstances, and that obviously is life-altering. For so-called safe and sane fireworks, I want to remind everyone these are illegal in Santa Clara County. These include things such as sparklers. If you are using these in parts of the Bay Area where they are legal, I want to remind everyone that sparklers are just as dangerous as large fireworks. Every year we see parents give sparklers to their children. They rest these on their clothing, and after a few seconds, your child is on fire and fighting for their lives. So really please take utmost precaution and safety, especially around sparklers. Finally, as everyone enjoys the 4th of July holiday and weekend, people like to drink alcohol and imbibe. That does not mix well with fire. Every year we see people drunk falling into fire pits. They go out to grill, they face plant into their grill and end up in the burn unit with pretty severe injuries. So please, when drinking, do not operate machinery, do not operate anything that has to deal with fire. So thank you so much, and with that, I'll turn it over to Santa Clara County Fire Chief Suwanna Kerdkaew.
Thank you, Dr. Sheckter. So the 4th of July, the Independence holiday, is steeped in a lot of tradition. Everything from barbecues and getting together with family and friends, watching fireworks. All of these things help bind our communities, bind our relationships. And that hasn't changed in decades or centuries. What has changed is fire weather. Over the course of the last decade or two, but you can definitely see it in the last decade, fire severity in terms of how quickly it's spreading, how much in terms of duration fire season is, has just grown and grown and grown. The climate is changing, and with that the vegetation is stressed. And although we've had a couple of years of heavy, heavy rains and compared to previous years, that just means the grass is taller and ready to be the receiver of a spark. And that is the one thing that is really dramatically different compared to a couple of decades ago. So with that said, the stats from California is that over 15,000 fires are started because of the 4th of July for these fireworks that are not condoned. And that really adds a stress on the system. And what that means is that when a fire lights off and your first responders are going to put out these fires, these are your fire departments as well as your law enforcement that's also going, and sometimes for some communities having to determine whether or not evacuation is needed, that it puts a huge burden on the system for calls that folks need that they're in peril, whether it's a car accident or a medical condition. So the added stress that comes with 4th of July in terms of the call volume. One of the things that I want to remind everybody is if your neighbors or if you're hearing fireworks that we know are not condoned, that not to call the 911 system, to call your local law enforcement non-emergency line, and then they will go through the process to triage the calls and then investigate it. Your 911 system is there for emergencies, and if you don't know and you don't know what your non-emergency line is, and the only number you know is 911, then go ahead and utilize that. But we want to encourage you to try to use the non-emergency lines for those calls for folks who may be in your neighborhood setting off some fireworks. I said that all it takes is one spark, and again, that doesn't mean it's just the grass. Sparks can light off a roof or a fence. There's lots of challenges with how quickly fire spreads, especially we're going into very hot, dry conditions over the 4th of July holiday. In fact, I believe that there's going to be a red flag warning on the outer border of our county, but what that means is that other counties are stressed, and we all participate in the mutual aid system where neighbor helps each other. So with that said, I think I just want to have everybody just have a safe 4th of July celebration with family and friends. Remember that what Dr. Sheckter said and Supervisor Chavez has seen over many, and I say that from just years of just seeing the change in fire behavior in the county here is we want to keep you safe, we want to protect you, and we want to give you the knowledge so that you can have a happy and safe 4th of July celebration. I'd like to introduce Assistant Director Mike Cabano. Come on in.
Thanks so much, Chief. I'm going to focus more on the medical components for today. So with the anticipated high temperatures over the course of the next week and holiday celebrations, the EMS system is preparing for and expecting a significant increase in call volume. The EMS system averages approximately 350 calls for service on a day. Last year, on the 4th of July, we averaged 387 calls for service. The Consumer Product Safety Commission reported in 2023 fireworks were involved in an estimated 9,700 injuries that were treated at U.S. hospital emergency rooms. An estimated 6,400 of those injuries occurred in the month leading up to the 4th of July, and 60% of those total injuries occurred on individuals between the age of 0 and 24 years. If you plan to enjoy outdoor celebrations, plan accordingly this week. Utilize sunscreen, wear light and loose-fitting clothing, stay hydrated with water or low-sugar sports drinks to avoid heat-related illnesses. Holiday celebrations, of course, can lead to the increased use of intoxicants. Do not drink and operate any motorized vehicle. If you have had any intoxicants, do so responsibly. Hand the keys over to someone else, or make a plan to stay where you are for the night. Also be aware, within the county, there are several festivities that will occur, which may lead to traffic delays and increased pedestrian traffic. Plan for extra time and get where you're going, and always be aware of your surroundings and avoid distractions always when operating your motor vehicles. I'll now turn it over to Maury Kendall for any questions from the group.
So, in regard to the volume of patients treated, so I can tell you right now, our burn unit is overflowing. We are already full with patients in excess of the beds, particularly in the burn unit proper. Fortunately, we have various parts of the hospital that we can continue to care for these patients. Our annual admission volume here is about 1 to 2 patients a day, and this time of year we see 2 to 3 times that amount, and that's pretty consistent for this week and through next week. For total from the all 4th of July related issues, yeah, I mean we're talking in terms of, it's one thing to have patients get admitted. We see 2 to 3 times that just come through the ED. So I mean we're talking 50 to 100 patients at our facility just around that holiday time. We are also a referral center for many other hospitals around the area that see these injuries and triage them. And, you know, our phones will be ringing all night long advising, you know, management of these injuries all across the Bay Area.
What was the most common injury that you treated last year around this time?
So, yeah, as I mentioned, actually barbecue and fire pit related injuries tend to be the most common. Obviously, the firework injuries can be some of the most devastating in terms of losing fingers and losing hands. But we see a lot of injuries around people falling into fire pits and barbecues.
I don't know of any in the 7 cities that Santa Clara County Fire has as a response service area, but I think it's very progressive in terms of trying to utilize technology to help celebrate Independence Day.
I mean, let me just make one comment that I feel very strongly about, and that is that the reason you have cities like Milpitas and other cities, San Jose and others, doing sanctioned events is because they really are trying to keep people who, you know, kids love fireworks. A lot of people do. Being able to go to a San Jose Giants game or any of these and have that experience is wonderful. And you have trained people who are working with explosives. And that's what we want. We want trained people doing that. And so we really are encouraging people to go to these sanctioned community events. And I think they really are community building. I think the point you raised about drones, and I think San Francisco does a great job with making sure they have like the symphony and they do other fun things to attract people, is exactly what we want to be doing. And really encouraging people to go on the county's fire website, find those alternatives for your family and yourself. Yeah, but that's a good question.
Actually, regarding that, today was the first day of the Safe and Sound selling of fireworks in Gilbert. So it's more a general question about any thoughts, tips, or recommendations for people down there.
Well, let me just make this observation. One is that, I grew up like many of us did. With fireworks, and I can tell you in our own family we had injuries because they are explosives. I think communities make their own decisions about what they will or won't sell based on their own ordinances and laws, but here's what I would say. We have 2 million people who live in Santa Clara County that rely on the healthcare system, the EMS system, the police system. We as community members need to be as responsible as we can to make sure that we're being as careful as we can with our families. And as a matter of fact, the whole reason we're having this press conference is so that we can share with you, the community, what safe alternatives there are for your family, so you have all the information you need to make the best choice you can for you and your family. If it were up to me, we wouldn't sell fireworks at all. I think they're incredibly dangerous. I think we all know that. I now have a new concern about barbecue pits and open fires that I didn't have. But to be frank with you, the idea that that we have an obligation to do all we can to keep our families safe, especially when we know how hot and dry the weather is going to be. We are going to have a heat wave. What that means is that as our firefighters and our emergency service leaders are going out into the community, they're going to be facing hotter fires than they would have a generation ago. Our obligation, I think, as a society is to make sure that we're limiting the risks to our families and to our emergency services.